Hello and welcome to the Relationships Education presentation for Years 3 and 4. I am Miss Samuels, I teach in Year 6, I'm the SENCO, I'm Deputy Safeguarding Lead and I also lead RSE and PSHE across all years at Forest Academy. So the aims of this session are to create a parent partnership with you. We would love to have your feedback about our new RSE Relationships and Sex Education curriculum. We want to explain to you the recent changes that have come from the government with relation to relationships, sex education. We want to help you to understand and ensure that you understand why RSE is important. We want to share with you how we currently teach RSE and how we have recently reviewed and updated our curriculum. So, relationships and sex education has recently had changes that have come from government. And as a school, we are required to cover the following topics: families and people who care for me, caring friendships, respectful relationships, online relationships, and being safe. Now, when these changes came into play, there was a lot of discussion in the press about what we as teachers can and can't do. So I just wanted to do a bit of myth busting with you. So there was talks that us as teachers can promote our own views. That is absolutely fake news. And we are given clear legal guidelines for what is taught, and we follow the school policy, and we do answer questions honestly, but using factual information. So we will not be promoting our own views. There was also talks that RSE, relationship sex education, promotes sexual activity in children. Absolutely not. At primary school level, children are taught that some parts of their body are private, how to seek help if someone makes them feel worried or scared, how their bodies will change as they get older, and the basics about periods and where babies come from. There was also talks that RSE teaches children to have a certain sexual orientation. That's not true. Our RSE curriculum is completely based around respect and how we should respect other people's differences as we would want them to respect our own. It also talks about how difference includes race, gender, disability, faith, and family background, as well as sexuality. And it also teaches the skills children need to make good decisions about their behaviour towards other people. So I just want to do a little bit of myth busting before we continue. So at Forest Academy, kind of a bit about the why behind our RSE curriculum. So we believe that our children at Forest Academy need to have the knowledge and skills to enable them to make informed and responsible choices later in life. And we want our children to be prepared and be responsible for their decisions, but to also make informed decisions as they transition into adulthood. And we firmly believe that our relationships and sex education should be taught within a climate of trust and respect, using appropriate confidentiality. And we want our children to be able to talk openly and honestly during our sessions. So what does relationships and sex education look like at Forest Academy? So relationships and sex education is taught in two different ways. Your child will either be taught about it in their weekly science lesson for some topics where appropriate, and they will also be taught about RSE during their weekly PSHE lessons. So PSHE stands for Personal Social Health Education, and your child currently has one PSHE lesson a week. Now, we have recently reviewed our curriculum and we have decided to take part in Jigsaw, a company called Jigsaw. And the reason we have done that is because the curriculum covers the following topics. So in autumn 1, when we look at September, every child from reception to year 6 is learning about the theme, being me in my world. Obviously that progresses as they go through the school, they build on their knowledge from the previous year. In autumn 2, children from reception to year 6 will be covering the topic celebrating differences, including anti-bullying. In spring 1, children from reception to year 6 look at their dreams and goals. In spring 2, they look at healthy lifestyles. And in summer 1, they'll be looking at relationships. And in summer 2, this is where the RSE bit really comes in, is the changing me. So talking about different names for body parts, how their body changes in going through puberty, and things like how babies are made. So every session that takes place for RSE is built and goes around ground rules. So at the start of the year, your class with their class teacher will create ground rules for each session. That's because we want children to be able to speak freely in an environment that creates respect and where they feel safe. So every session we'll start with a recap of the ground rules, and because we want the children to be free to ask questions, and we want them to feel respected with their opinions. So how will the children learn? The PSHE lesson, which contains elements of the relationship and sex education RSE, will be planned for just like a maths, history or science lesson. So we will carefully as teachers think about what we want the children to learn and how they will learn it. We will give them factual information that will not interfere with your home values or faith, and our sessions will look at building the children's social skills and them collaborating with each other to understand differences and similarities as well. So for you as parents, we want you to know that our curriculum is built on fact and information. We would also like you to know that at the start of each half term, when you are given the curriculum letter that talks about what your child will be learning across all subjects for that half term, you will now see that there'll be a PSHE section. This will cover what your child will be learning for the half term, but also what vocabulary they will be learning about. This means that you will be able to maybe have conversations prior to the learning taking place, or you may wish to have conversations after the learning is taken place, but we want you to be prepared so that you are able to have those conversations with your child. Our curriculum is very much intertwined with home and school values. It's based around kindness, respect, responsibility. We want your child to build their social skills through collaborative learning, so talking with these topics at home and at school. And again, it all comes back down to that word respect. We want your child to respect everyone's views, and we will be encouraging your child to share and listen to different opinions, but always built around respect. So this section will now talk about what you as a parent can and cannot withdraw your child from. So as I have said already, the RSD curriculum, the relationships and sex education, some elements of it are taught within our science curriculum, which is dictated by the national curriculum. So these are things we have a duty to teach your child. As a parent, you will not be able to withdraw from elements of the science curriculum, and I'll show you what that means for year 3 and 4 very shortly. You can withdraw your child from the RSE, the relationships and sex education curriculum, those PSHE lessons. However, what I would like to say now is if you do choose to do that, your child will still discuss these topics on the playground with other children. So I think it's really beneficial for your child to take part in those PSHE lessons so they are given correct factual information. Us as teachers can address any misconceptions, answer any questions that that child may have. It's much better for them to learn about these key themes from a teacher than it is from their friends on the playground. If you do, however, still wish to withdraw your child from the PSHE lessons, then we would like to have a conversation with you about it at school, either with myself, Mrs. Ray or Mrs. Oldfield. That way we can maybe answer any questions or concerns you have. We can share some more of the resources with you so that you feel more confident in your child attending those lessons. So what I'm going to do now is show you what is part of the RSE curriculum and what is part of the science curriculum in years 3 and 4. And you will see there's a lot of overlap. So science for year 3 and 4 talks about how different body parts have special functions. And then in year 3 for RSE, you will see strong similarities. So in year 3, they'll be talking about how boys and girls' bodies change on the inside and outside, thinking about growing up, what does that mean for them? And then they'll start to talk about how babies grow. In year 4, they'll be summarising the changes that happen to boys and girls' bodies and again making preparations for when they are older. So there's a lot of overlay. They'll be learning about the kind of biology elements in science, but I think what's fantastic about the RSE curriculum is that they can then start to talk about how it makes them feel, any worries they've got, any concerns that they've got. And what we will do now is I'm going to share with you some of the resources that are used to teach RSE in year 3. So in year 3, they'll be answering questions and discussing questions such as how do babies grow, what changes happen using these resource cards here. So it's more looking at baby animals and how they change to an adult animal. And then thinking about how have you changed since you were a baby. They will then go on to answer and discuss questions such as what changes have happened to you in your life, what are the changes that will turn you from an adult child to an adult, and how do you feel about changes? So with these discussion cards, they'll be talking about how you will grow taller, you'll develop pubic hair between your legs, hair will grow on your legs, and your hips may widen, you may grow hair on your face, but it's all done through discussion using these cards here. They will then begin to think about how our bodies change on the inside and on the outside. And I just wanted to share with you, these are the images that would be shared with your child during the lesson. So you're aware of what that looks like. So this would be shared to describe changes between men and women. As we move into year 4, we will be discussing and answering the following questions. So what is the most special and precious thing that any of us can make? Why do people choose to have babies? What is difficult about looking after a baby? And does everybody need to have a baby? During this, topics such as IVF may come up, thinking about, again, the different ways that babies are made, learning and understanding about others, and then that turns into respect for others. This is some of the resources that will be shared with your child in year 4. They will then talk about puberty in a bit more detail, but really thinking about what that means for them and how it's making them feel. So answering questions like, how do you feel when you think about puberty and growing up? How does the way you feel compare with how other people feel? And knowing that we will all go through puberty at different stages and in different ways, and that's okay. So they'll be thinking about what they're looking forward to when they become a teenager, what it's like to be the age where they are now, comparing maybe to themselves to their friends, what's tricky about being the age when they are now, and any worries they have about growing up. So we can have conversations about these things and alleviate any worries or concerns that your child may have. They will then begin to think about changes that happen to boys and girls, and we'll be learning about the menstruation cycle. Now, what I would like to say at this point is that at Forest Academy, we have often found that it's better when teaching these topics that the girls and boys are separated. This means we found that they're more comfortable to ask questions and the discussion tends to flow a bit more. What I would also like to say though is that we think it's really important that boys learn about changes to girls' bodies and girls learn about the changes that will take place to boys' bodies. So they will still be learning about each other, but just not necessarily together. Like I said before, they tend to ask more questions and the conversation gets going a bit more when boys and girls are taught separately. So we'll be thinking about objects that you might need when you start puberty, things like a can of deodorant, and they'll be learning about the menstruation cycle within year 4. They will then go on to think about why do these changes happen and if they have any control over these changes, looking at scenario cards that do discuss things like when their body starts puberty, but also things like when your pet dies or when you go on a plane for the first time. So how can we deal with those changes that are going to take place to us? What can we control? What can we not control? Now, if you wanted to find any more information about this topic, there is government guidance that if you just type RSE primary schools government.gov into Google, you'll be able to find this information there. So what's next? We want to make you aware that our curriculum is constantly under review to meet the needs of our children, your children. Our draft policy will be on the website at the end of the week. If you do have any questions from watching this presentation, please do use the email address below to get in contact with us. Any questions that are sent in, and will then form our coffee afternoon that will be taking place for year 3 and 4 on Wednesday, the 5th of May. So if you did have anything that you wanted to know about, if you want to see any more of the resources, anything that's a concern for you, please do let us know, and then we'll be able to deliver more information on Wednesday, the 5th of May. Thank you ever so much for watching this. Goodbye.